There are those films, the ones you feel like you know backwards and forward.
Oh, absolutely. The ones you've seen like 100 times.
Yeah.
You quote the line
Certainly the characters, the music, it's all just there in your brain. But what if there's this whole other story underneath? Something kind of bizarre, maybe fascinating, just waiting.
And that's sort of what we're here for today, right? To dig into that.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take your curiosity, we take the sources you send us, could be articles, research papers, your own notes, whatever, and we really plunge in.
Yeah, we try to pull out the most important bits, the real nuggets of knowledge and insight.
Our mission, really, is to give you a shortcut. Cut through the noise, get you those key insights, spark some aha moments with maybe some surprising facts, and hopefully have a bit of fun along the way.
Get you well informed without feeling like you're, drowning in information.
So today we are diving deep, really deep, into a film that is just beloved. A piece of brilliant macabre comedy, the 1991 movie The Addams Family.
I bet a lot of you listening know this film really well. Maybe quote it constantly, like you said.
Oh, for sure. But the sources we've gathered for this deep dive, they reveal this absolutely wild, fascinating, and honestly, sometimes really tumultuous journey behind how it got made and why it still resonates.
Yeah, our goal for you today is to take you beyond just the spooky, kooky surface. We want to reveal the hidden stuff, the complexities, the production nightmares, and there were plenty and some really surprising decisions that shaped this classic.
Get ready to, gain some knowledge pretty quickly but thoroughly, hear different perspectives, and hopefully walk away with some truly memorable details, stuff you can bring up next time you watch it.
We'll look at why this movie, against some pretty serious odds, became such an enduring part of pop culture.
From its roots in those amazing Charles Addams cartoons to the star-studded cast and just the sheer chaos of the production, this film really has a story almost as bizarre and captivating as the Addams family themselves.
It's kind of a testament to resilience, isn't it? Both on screen and off.
Totally. Okay, let's unpack this thing. Okay, the ghoulish genesis, setting the stage for the 1991 film. All right, so the Addams Family, 1991. Our sources, right off the bat, they label it an American supernatural black comedy. And, it nails that genre, doesn't it?
Absolutely. But the key thing to understand about why it worked so well, beyond the humor and the style, is that it wasn't just pulled out of thin air. It had history, deep roots.
Right. It wasn't some random original script.
Exactly. This film, it drew directly from the iconic characters Charles Addams created for his cartoons, which, were running in The New Yorker for decades, starting way back in 1938.
Wow, that far back.
Yeah. Those single-panel cartoons, often really darkly funny, they gave us the first glimpse into their world. But the film also leaned heavily on the popular 1964 TV show, the black and white one.
Produced by David Levy, the one with the finger snap.
That's the one. That show really cemented the characters in pop culture, gave them voices, relationship.
And that's a really important point, isn't it? The film wasn't just like dusting off old characters.
No, it was a very deliberate reimagining, a reintroduction almost, trying to translate that specific, sometimes subtle, macabre humor of Addams, plus the charm of the 60s show, for a 90s movie audience.
That's a tricky balance. Lots of adaptations kind of stumble there.
They really do. But this one somehow managed it, which is maybe part of why it succeeded.
Yeah.
Its core mission was clear. Reintroduce this bizarre, macabre, but weirdly aristocratic family to a whole new generation.
And it did that by focusing on a specific plot, right? The Fester plot.
Exactly. Focusing on them reconnecting with someone they really, truly believe is a long-lost relative, Gomez's brother, Fester Addams. Understanding those origins, the cartoons, and the show is absolutely key to appreciating why the film hit the way it did. B, plot points and peculiar personalities. The story unfolds.
Okay, so the story. It really kicks off with this central conflict, which is kind of darkly funny, but also genuinely emotional. It's Gomez Addams, right? And his 25-year lament over his brother Fester just disappearing.
Yeah, and for Gomez, it's not just a quirk. It's presented as this deep, profound loss. It establishes the stakes, amidst all the gothic weirdness. It really highlights that fierce loyalty that kind of defines the Addams family.
And that loyalty is immediately what the bad guys latch onto.
Right away, we meet Tully Alford, Gomez's lawyer, who's just slimy, utterly corrupt. And he's in deep trouble financially, owes a ton of money to this really conniving loan shark / con artist Abigail Craven.
Played brilliantly by Elizabeth Wilson.
Oh, yeah. So Tully sees Abigail's adopted son, Gordon, who just happens to look uncannily like the missing Fester, and this light bulb goes off.
The big con.
The big con. The plan is for Gordon to pose as Fester, get inside the Addams house, find this legendary family vault that's supposedly stuffed with riches, and, well, rob them blind.
It's such a classic setup, but with that perfect Addams twist, and the way they introduce Fester is just chef's kiss.
It's great. The family holds a seance, Grandmama's leading it, trying to contact Fester's spirit, then boom, Gordon shows up, playing the part. And Abigail's there too, posing as this German psychiatrist, Dr. Greta Pinderschloss.
Dr. Pinderschloss. Amazing.
And she spins this completely wild story. Fester was lost in the Bermuda Triangle for 25 years, just found tangled in tuna nets.
It's utterly ridiculous, but somehow, in their world, it almost makes sense. It's perfectly, unapologetically Addams.
And Gomez, initially, he's just overjoyed, absolutely ecstatic, takes Fester straight to the family vault to watch old home movies.
And that's where Gordon gets some crucial intel, right?
The backstory.
Yeah, he learns why the brothers supposedly had this falling out years ago. Apparently Gomez, in a fit of jealousy, because Fester was better with women, wooed these conjoined twins, Flora and Fun Moore, away from him.
Only the Addamses.
Exactly. It's bizarre, but it gives Gordon, the imposter, something concrete to work with, a shared history to fake.
But Gomez isn't stupid. That pure joy starts to curdle a bit, doesn't it? It does. Slowly. Fester just can't recall these important little details about their childhood. And Gomez, despite wanting to believe so badly, starts getting suspicious. Meanwhile, Gordon tries to get into the vault on his own.
No dice.
Nope. Thwarted by a classic Addams booby trap, which just adds another layer of difficulty for the con artists and shows you, the Addamses don't mess around when it comes to their secrets or their gold.
What's really interesting here, though, is how the family's own values kind of work for and against them in this whole thing.
That's a great point. Morticia, ever the matriarch, she gives Fester these subtle warnings about how important family is, about the vengeance they take on anyone who crosses them.
It's chilling, but also kind of loving in its own way.
Totally. Gordon seems to just shrug it off. But Abigail, she's clever. She plays on Gomez's own psychology, tells him his suspicions are just displacement.
Right, like he's redirecting his anxiety about Fester being gone onto Gordon.
Exactly. Convincing him it's his own issue, not that the guy's a fake. It's a smart manipulation playing right into Gomez's slightly eccentric way of thinking.
And it works. For quite a while, actually. Our sources really highlight this fascinating arc for Gordon, for Christopher Lloyd's character.
Yeah, as he spends more time there living with him, he actually starts to connect with Wednesday and Pugsley. He helps them with their school play, a big sword fight scene.
Abigail strictly told him not to go. Right. Focus on the job.
Absolutely forbidden. But he feels bad about letting the kids down, so he defies her. He goes to the play. And that's a real turning point. You see him starting to genuinely care about this weird but incredibly loving family.
That bond is so crucial because it leads right into the climax, doesn't it?
Directly. Wednesday, who is always watching, always noticing things.
Christina Ricci was amazing.
Just perfect. She overhears Abigail and Tully talking about the plan. She escapes and hides out in the family cemetery, which is, classic Wednesday.
Of course. Where else?
Meanwhile, Tully digs up this devastating legal detail. As the elder brother, Fester is technically the executor of the Addams estate. He owns everything.
Oh, wow.
So with the help of Judge George Womack, the Judge Gomez keeps hitting with golf balls.
That running gag is hilarious. Paul Benedict was perfect.
He was. So Tully gets Judge Womack to issue a restraining order, kicking the entire Addams family out of their own house.
It's genuinely upsetting to watch them lose their home. Gomez tries to fight it in court, but Womack's got it in for him.
Rules against him.
Yeah.
And suddenly, the Addamses are thrust into, normal life, mundane life, stripped of everything that makes them them.
They end up in a motel. Morticia tries teaching preschool.
Which goes about as well as you'd expect.
Wednesday and Pugsley are selling toxic lemonade.
Naturally.
And even Thrawn becomes a courier. Gomez just sinks into this deep depression. He's lethargic, totally unlike himself.
And that raises a really interesting question for you listening. How do the Addamses cope when they're taken out of their element? Their house, their routines, their stuff. It shows how much that environment is part of their identity. It's almost like another character.
It really is. That separation is the ultimate test for them.
So, the climax. Morticia bravely goes back to the house to confront Gordon, but she gets captured by Abigail and Tully. They start torturing her, trying to get her to reveal how to open the vault.
But Thing sees it all.
Thing sees it, sends out a Morse code message using, like, tapping. Gomez gets it, races to the rescue. Big confrontation. Abigail threatens Morticia's life unless Gomez hands over the fortune.
And this is where Gordon finally makes his choice.
Yes. He's just had enough of his mother's cruelty, her constant insults. He turns on her, grabs one of those magical Addams books, the kind that makes whatever's inside happen in reality.
Like the hurricane book.
Exactly. Unleashes a hurricane inside the house. It strikes him with lightning, which is bizarrely helpful in a moment, and sends Tully and Abigail flying out the window.
Right into the open graves the kids conveniently dug earlier.
Perfectly prepared. Wednesday in Pugsley, always thinking ahead.
But the twist, the coda 7 months later on Halloween, that's the real payoff.
It really is. It turns out Gordon was Fester all along. He really was lost in the Bermuda Triangle. Abigail found him. He had amnesia. She adopted him and basically brainwashed him.
So the lightning strike.
The lightning strike actually jolted his memory back in that perfectly weird Addams way. And what's so insightful here, according to our sources, is that this twist wasn't just, like, a clever trick.
The cast pushed for it, right?
Yeah, especially Christina Ricci. Sonnenfeld, the director, he originally wanted it to be ambiguous. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't Fester. But the actors, Ricci in particular, apparently gave this really passionate plea, no, he has to be Fester. It's about family.
And Sonnenfeld agreed.
He did. He later said they were absolutely right. It was the better way to go. It gave the film that genuine, if macabre, heartwarming core. It reinforced those Addams values, loyalty, family above all.
And it ends with them all back together playing Wake the Dead.
Their favorite game. And Morticia telling Gomez she's pregnant. It's just perfect. Kooky, dark, but genuinely sweet. See, the cast of characters bringing the macabre to life.
Okay, so beyond the plot and the look, the absolute core of this film has got to be the cast. Just perfect casting across the board.
Oh, totally. That central trio, Angelica Houston as Morticia, Raul Julia as Gomez, Christopher Lloyd as Fester Gordon, they are just phenomenal.
And our sources even point out the detail of having younger actors play Gomez and Fester in flashbacks.
Yeah.
Jimmy Ross and Daniel Pecos for Gomez, Ryan Anderson and Michael Hiddlesdorf for Fester.
Yeah, that really helps sell their shared history, Gomez's grief. It grounds it.
It really does. And the rest of the family, just as perfectly cast.
You've got Christina Ricci as Wednesday, who, as we just said, actually influenced the plot. Jimmy Workman as Pugsley, Judith Molina as Grandmama, just capturing that weird witchy vibe.
Carol Struycken as Lurch. So good. Sings so much with so little.
Masterful. That towering presence, the quiet melancholy. And Christopher Hart as Thing. That hand had so much personality.
It really did. And you can't forget John Franklin as Cousin It, that voice.
Apparently achieved by running multiple tracks of just gibberish together. Genius.
And the normal people, the antagonists and supporting roles, they were great too. Elizabeth Wilson as Abigail, Dan Hedaya as Tully.
Dana Ivey as Margaret Alford, Tully's wife, who eventually falls for Cousin It.
Right. And Paul Benedict as Judge Womack, always getting hit by those golf balls. Even the director Barry Sonnenfeld popped up in a cameo, right?
Yeah, quick shot of him as a passenger on Gomez's model train during a montage. A fun little Easter egg.
But what's really insightful for you, the listener, is digging into how these actors actually approached these iconic roles. It wasn't just putting on a costume.
No, there was real thought there. Angelica Houston, for instance, talked about basing parts of Morticia on her friend, the model Jerry Hall, to give her that warmth, that kind of regal grace underneath the gothic exterior.
That's fascinating. It adds a layer you might not consciously notice, but you feel it.
Exactly. And Houston also admitted she thought Cher was going to get the part, which just shows you how coveted that role was. She was a huge fan of Morticia herself.
And Raul Julia as Gomez, electric is the only word.
Completely. Our sources say he loved the character's irreverent portrayal of everything. He famously said, even his depressions are wonderful.
That sums up Gomez perfectly.
It does. He found the passion, the joy, the humanity within the strangeness. He made Gomez weirdly relatable, despite, sword fighting in his living room and blown up trains.
It's that level of commitment, that thoughtful approach from the actors that really lifts the whole thing, isn't it? It makes them more than just cartoon characters. They feel real in their own bizarre way. 2. Behind the Gothic curtains. A deep dive into production turmoil. Okay, so on screen, the Addams Family looks seamless, polished, like this perfectly realized, macabre little world.
Yeah, it feels effortless.
But behind the scenes, oh boy, it was anything but effortless. Our sources paint this picture of just absolute chaos. A really wild ride.
Let's start even before filming. Pre-production sounds like a nightmare of its own.
It really does. The whole idea started with Scott Rudin, who was an executive at 20th Century Fox at the time. He pitched a new film based on the Charles Addams cartoons.
And Fox was into it.
Totally. They saw the potential, wanted the rights. Seemed straightforward.
But it wasn't. Because rights are never straightforward in Hollywood.
Never. This was a classic example, a total rights minefield. Turns out, Orion Pictures already owned the film rights. And they weren't selling, they were actually planning their own Addams Family reboot, but as a TV series.
Okay, so that's one complication.
But wait, there's more. Charles Addams' widow, T. Addams, held separate, crucial property rights. Things like the character designs, their specific looks and personalities, those were separate from the film rights.
So Fox couldn't make the movie even if they wanted to because Orion had the film rights and the widow had key character rights and Orion wasn't selling anyway. Exactly, a complete stalemate. Rudin had the vision, Fox had the interest, but the rights were just scattered and locked down.
So how did it finally break loose?
Eventually, Addams' widow sold her remaining rights to Orion. Maybe they made her a good offer, maybe she preferred their approach, who knows. But once Orion had all the necessary rights consolidated, then they decided, okay, let's do the film instead of the TV show, with Scott Rudin staying on as producer.
Wow, that sounds like it took years just to get to the starting line.
It probably did. And then they faced another weird hurdle. Apparently, the 1964 TV show wasn't as well remembered by the general public in the late 80s, nearly 90s, as, say, The Munsters.
Really? I feel like everyone knew the theme song.
The theme song, maybe? But our sources say, due to how the shows were syndicated, basically, how often reruns were shown, the Munsters had been on TV way more consistently. So the Addams film couldn't just rely on instant nostalgia from the TV show. It had to kind of reestablish itself.
Interesting. Okay, so they finally get the rights. They have a producer. Now they need a director. And they aimed high, right?
They really did.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Burton was approached. Makes sense, right?
Perfect sense.
Terry Gilliam, too. Another director known for that kind of dark, fantastical, kooky style.
Wow. Either of them would have been fascinating.
Definitely. But both said no. They had other commitments. Burton was deep into making Batman Returns around that time.
Which also has that gothic vibe.
Totally. So the fact that those guys turned it down makes the final choice, Barry Sonnenfeld, even more interesting. Because this was his first time directing a feature film. He was known as this amazing cinematographer, DP for the Coen brothers, and Rob Reiner.
Raising Arizona, Miller's Crossing, When Harry Met Sally. Incredible visual stylist.
Exactly. But directing, totally different ballgame. It was a huge leap of faith for the studio and probably for him, too. B, filming fiascos and unforeseen headaches.
Yeah, speaking of Barry Sonnenfeld, Baptism by Fire doesn't even begin to cover it, does it? His first directing gig, and this production sounds like it threw absolutely everything at him.
Our sources paint a picture of just immense, relentless stress, constant pressure.
And they were filming mostly on one stage, right? At Hollywood Center Studios.
Yeah, stage 38. And here's a cool little detail. That's the exact same studio where the original 1964 TV show was filmed.
No way! That's amazing! Like the ghosts were still there?
Kind of feels like it, doesn't it? A nice bit of continuity, but maybe a bit spooky, too.
But the actual filming? It quickly went from challenging to just crisis mode.
Total crisis mode. Get this. 3 months before they're supposed to wrap, the original director of photography, Owen Roizman, a legend, shot The Exorcist. Tootsie, he quits. Walks off the set.
Whoa. Losing your DP that late in the game, that's almost unheard of. That signals major problems.
Huge problems. So they scramble, they hire a replacement, Gail Tattersall. Weeks later, he gets rushed to the hospital, suddenly collapses on set.
You're kidding!
Not kidding. So Sonnenfeld, the first-time director, is forced to literally take over shooting the movie himself. He becomes his own director of photography while still directing.
I cannot even imagine that pressure. Directing is hard enough. Doing both on your first movie?
Insane. Just insane. A testament to his stamina, I guess? Or maybe desperation?
I mean, just camera crew issues, right? The actors had problems, too.
Yeah, the chaos spread. Raul Julia Gomez suffered a burst blood vessel in his eye. They had to stop filming his scenes, shoot around him while he recovered. More delays.
Jeez.
And then, hitting Sonnenfeld personally, his own wife got seriously ill during production, which also forced them to halt filming for a while. It was just one thing after another. Professional stress, personal stress, logistical nightmares.
But maybe the most vivid example of the sheer physical toll comes from Angelica Houston. Her descriptions of getting into Morticia mode sound agonizing.
Oh, yeah. To get that iconic upward slant to Morticia's eyes, they had to glue this elastic strap to her temples, pulling the skin up, and a second strap to balance her lower face.
Glue on her temples. Ouch.
Apparently, it caused constant discomfort, severe headaches, even rashes if she didn't take them off at lunch. But taking them off was its own ordeal, because then it meant hours of reapplying the makeup, the wig.
What a nightmare. Either constant pain or hours wasted in makeup.
And the bands would snap. If she turned her head too quickly, snap. More delays, more re-gluing. She said she eventually learned to just pivot her whole body without moving her head.
That is dedication. But wow, that sounds absolutely brutal for a look.
Truly. And Houston also shared this great anecdote about Judith Malina, who played Grandmama. Malina had her own ordeal, apparently encased in latex prosthetics for like 12 hours a day.
Oh, God.
And how did she cope? According to Houston, by smoking an endless series of joints in her trailer.
No way. That's hilarious. And very Grandmama, somehow.
Right. It just perfectly humanizes how grueling that process must have been for everyone involved.
Yeah.
You got to find ways to cope, I guess. See, the financial frights and studio swap.
Okay, so we've got creative chaos, physical agony. What about the money side? Because that sounds just as precarious.
Oh, yeah. The original studio, Orion Pictures, they were in massive trouble financially around 1991. Just hemorrhaging money.
But didn't they have huge hits like Silence of the Lambs and Dances with Wolves around then?
They did. Huge hits. But they'd also had a string of really expensive flops before that, films that just bombed at the box office. So those couple of big wins weren't enough to stop the bleeding. They were basically teetering on the edge of bankruptcy.
And that instability affected the Addams family directly.
Absolutely. The film was initially budgeted pretty reasonably, like $25 million. But it quickly went over budget, ended up costing $30 million.
Why the increase?
Mostly because of constant rewrites during filming. They kept adding new material, changing things on the fly, and every script change, especially during production, costs time, costs resources, costs money. It became a big financial drain for a studio that couldn't really afford it.
So Orion starts getting nervous.
Very nervous. They're looking at this $30 million film with a first-time director, a chaotic production, and it's scheduled to come out against Steven Spielberg's Hook. A massive Christmas movie.
Yeah, that's stiff competition.
Super stiff. So Orion panics. They basically decide, we can't risk another expensive flop, let's cut our losses. And they do something pretty drastic. They sell the film, mid-production, to Paramount Pictures.
They sold it while it was still being made.
Yep. Just offloaded it. Trying to recoup some costs and avoid a potential bomb they thought might sink the entire company.
Wow. That must have created a mess with the rights again.
A huge mess. Paramount got the domestic rights, U.S. and Canada. But Orion had already pre-sold the international rights to Columbia Pictures. That's pretty common, selling overseas rights early to help finance the film.
So now you have two different major studios owning different parts of the same movie.
Exactly. Paramount for North America, Columbia Sony, basically for the rest of the world. And that split ownership would cause headaches for years, especially with home video releases. We'll get to that.
But the craziest part of this sale, the filmmakers didn't even know.
That's what our sources say. Sonnenfeld, the cast, the crew, they were all kept in the dark. They found out Orion had sold the film from a journalist who called asking for comment.
That is unbelievable. Imagine pouring everything into this difficult shoot and you find out from a reporter that your studio just bailed.
The lack of communication is staggering. Just adds another layer of stress and uncertainty to that whole chaotic environment. It really shows you the cold, hard business side of Hollywood sometimes.
And the ultimate irony.
The ultimate irony is that Orion was completely wrong. The Addams Family was a massive hit, made a ton of money. Their decision to sell, born out of fear, ended up being this colossal missed opportunity for them.
Ouch. That's gotta sting.
For sure. It's a fascinating case study, though, for you listening. High-stakes Hollywood finance, decisions made under pressure. Sometimes they backfire spectacularly. D, post-production Polish. Test audiences and twists.
Okay, so filming finally wraps. Paramount now owns the domestic rights, but the movie's journey isn't over yet, right? Post-production, editing, test screenings, that all played a part too.
Definitely. Test audiences in particular had a pretty significant impact on the final cut.
Right.
Studios use them to gauge reactions, see what's working, what's not.
And one big thing they reacted to was the mamushka sequence.
Yeah, that big, energetic dance number with Gomez and Fester. Apparently in the original cut, it was much longer, more elaborate.
I love that scene.
Me too. But according to the test audiences back then, it maybe dragged a bit or interrupted the flow. Whatever the reason, their negative feedback led to it being significantly shortened in the theatrical release.
Interesting. Shows how audience feedback can directly shape the final film, even cutting down iconic moments.
It really does. And then there's that huge Fester reveal we talked about earlier, the whole is he or isn't he question.
Which Sonnenfeld originally wanted to leave ambiguous.
Right. He liked that darker, uncertain ending. But the actors, they hated it. They felt it undermined the whole point of the movie, the family connection.
And Christina Ricci stepped up.
She did. 10 years old, apparently gave this incredibly impassioned plea to Sonnenfeld, arguing that Fester had to be the real Fester for the story to work emotionally.
And he listened. To a 10-year-old.
He listened. He completely changed that massive plot point based on their feedback, especially Ricci's. He later said, "They were right. It was the better way to go."
That's amazing. Firstly, that a child actor had that much insight and influence. And secondly, that the director was open enough to admit they were right and change course.
It really speaks to the collaborative nature of filmmaking, doesn't it? Sometimes the best ideas come from unexpected places, and it absolutely reinforces that core theme of family that makes the Addamses so, well, so Addams. That twist being real anchors the whole emotional journey. 3. The family's enduring legacy, impact, reception, and beyond.
So after all that, all the chaos, the rights issues, the rewrites, the actor ordeals, the studio swap, how did the Addams Family actually do when it finally hit theaters?
Commercially, it was a smash hit, completely defied Orion's fears. It made over $113 million just in the U.S. and Canada, and around $191 million worldwide.
Against that $30 million budget, that's a huge success.
A very significant profit. Audiences absolutely turned out for it.
And the opening weekend was big too, right?
Huge.
Yeah.
Opened at #1 in the U.S., made over $24 million that first weekend, which at the time was Paramount's biggest non-holiday opening weekend ever, bigger than another 48 hours.
Wow. So audiences loved it from day one. What about the critics?
Well, that's where it gets interesting. The critical reception was much more mixed.
Yeah.
You see a real split between audience love and critical reviews.
How mixed are we talking?
Rotten Tomatoes has it at like 67% positive now,
Yeah.
which isn't bad, but the consensus summary basically says, yeah, funny gags, but the script doesn't really hold together.
Yeah.
Metacritic score is 57 out of 100 again, mixed or average, and Cinema Score, where they poll audiences right after they see it, gave it a B. Solid, but not spectacular.
So some major critics weren't impressed.
Not really. Roger Ebert gave it just 2 stars out of 4, called it mildly entertaining, but said it did not add up to much. Jonathan Rosenbaum was harsher, called it just a collection of one-liners and not much more, and Variety even called it a major disappointment.
Ouch. So a lot of critics felt the plot was weak, maybe a result of all those rewrites.
That seems to be the main criticism, that it felt more like a series of sketches than a cohesive story.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a strong counter-argument.
Which was?
The cast, pretty much everyone, even the critics who didn't love the script, praised the performances. The BBC summed it up well, saying, "It is the top-notch cast that elevates this film from flimsy to sheer delight."
So Houston, Julia, Lloyd, Ricci, they saved it.
For many people, absolutely. Their commitment, their perfect embodiment of those characters really carried the film and made it incredibly enjoyable, even if the script had flaws. That's probably why it connected so strongly with audiences. The characters brought to life so perfectly, just transcended everything else. Be accolades and anti-accolades, a mixed bag of recognition.
Okay, so huge hit with audiences, mixed reviews from critics. Did it get any awards attention? Given that split, I'm curious.
It's a really interesting mix, actually. Very fitting for the Addamses, really.
Yeah.
A bit of praise, a bit of, well, the opposite.
Okay, lay it on me.
On the plus side, it was actually named Best Horror Film of the Year in 1991 by the Horror Hall of Fame. Carol Stryken, Lurch, accepted the award for the cast.
Horror film. Interesting classification.
Yeah, it leans into the gothic elements. And showing its broad appeal, it also won Favorite Movie at the 1992 Kids' Choice Awards.
Yeah.
So horror fans and kids liked it.
That's quite a range. Any individual nods?
Yes. Angelica Houston got a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actress in a Musical or Comedy, really recognizing her standout performance as Morticia, even if the film itself wasn't a critical darling across the board.
Well-deserved. She was incredible.
Totally. And the film also got an Oscar nomination for Best Costume Design. Again, totally deserved for capturing that iconic look so well. Lost to Bugsy. But still, the nomination itself is significant.
Okay, so some decent recognition. Where does the anti-accolade come in?
Yes. The flip side, the film also won a Golden Raspberry Award, a Razzie for Worst Original Song.
No. For what song?
For MC Hammer's Addams Groove.
Oh my God, I remember that song. And the video, it was
Yeah.
something.
It was definitely something. Widely panned for just feeling completely out of place with the film's tone, MC Hammer's upbeat style versus the gothic macabre vibe. It just didn't mesh.
That's hilarious. So it won awards for being the best horror film and the favorite kids movie, got Oscar and Globe nominations, and won a Razzie for the theme song.
Exactly. It's such a perfect encapsulation of the film's weird, contradictory reception. Praised for its look, its actors, its appeal to different groups, but also mocked for its promotional tie-in song. It's a really fun, quirky detail about its history. C, expanding the macabre universe, spin-offs and legal spats. That huge box office success naturally didn't just end there. It kicked off a whole expansion of the Addams universe in the 90s.
Most obviously, the sequel, right?
Yeah.
Addams Family Value.
Exactly, just a couple years later. And many people, fans and critics alike, actually think the sequel is even better. Deeper characters, sharper satire.
Joan Cusack as Debbie Jelinski is legendary.
Absolutely iconic. But the first film's success branched out in other ways, too. There was a making-of documentary released back in '91, giving fans a peek behind the curtain.
Probably glossed over some of the chaos we've discussed.
Probably. And, of course, video games. Multiple games based on the movie came out for consoles like Nintendo and Sega, handhelds, computers, lots of tie-ins.
Standard stuff for a hit movie back then.
True. But here's something that isn't standard, something genuinely surprising about its cultural footprint. The pinball machine.
Oh, yeah. Was it popular?
Popular doesn't even cover it. The Addams Family pinball machine, released by Bally Williams in March 1992. It became the best-selling pinball machine
Ever.
of all time.
Get out. Seriously, more than like Twilight Zone or Star Trek?
More than anything, they sold over 20,000 units. It's legendary in the pinball world. Features voices from Raul Julia and Angelica Houston, targets like Hit Cousin It, and a mechanism called Thing Flips.
That is incredible. A movie with that troubled a production spawns the biggest selling pinball machine ever.
Isn't that wild? It just shows how much the characters and the vibe resonated, far beyond just the film itself. It tapped into something huge.
Wow. Okay, so huge success, sequels, games, record-breaking pinball. But there were still hurdles, even after release.
Yeah, remember that split ownership issue? Paramount domestic, Columbia MGM international.
Right, the sale mid-production.
That caused real problems for home video. Because of the separate ownership, the film was actually out of print overseas on VHS and later formats for years. It wasn't easily available internationally until like 2013.
For decades. Just because of studio rights? That's crazy.
It's a perfect example of how behind-the-scenes legal stuff can literally prevent fans in whole regions from accessing a movie they love.
Though it did come out domestically, right? There were VHS tapes.
Oh yeah, domestically it was available. McDonald's even sold cheap exclusive VHS copies in 1993 as part of a promotion. Very 90s.
I might have had one of those.
Later, there were double feature DVDs and Blu-rays with Addams Family Values.
Yeah.
And speaking of Blu-rays, that 2021 re-release, the 4K one, it actually included an extended cut of the Manushka, the bit that got shortened because of those test screenings. They finally put a longer version back in.
No way. So like 30 years later, fans finally got to see more of it.
Exactly. A nice bit of film preservation and fan service correcting something dictated by test audiences decades earlier.
That's cool. Any other post-release drama?
One last bit. A lawsuit. David Levy, who produced the original 60s TV show, sued Paramount after the film came out,
For what?
claiming the movie infringed on his property rights, basically arguing it copied too much from the TV show's specific interpretation of the characters, not just the original cartoons.
It did go anywhere.
It was settled out of court. But interestingly, the settlement only happened after the film was a proven hit, and Paramount had already greenlit the sequel. Levy probably had more leverage then.
Ah, the smell of success brings out the lawyers.
Often does. It just raises that interesting question for you, the listener. How often do successful adaptations face these kinds of legal challenges over rights and interpretations? It's another layer to the complex life cycle of bringing beloved characters back to the screen. Outro.
Wow. Okay. What a journey. We have really gone through the gothic highs and the chaotic lows of the 1991 Addams Family film.
We really have. From its roots in Charles Addams' genius cartoons to becoming this unexpected box office smash despite Well, despite everything.
Yeah, the tumultuous production, the actors literally suffering for their art, the studio practically falling apart and selling the movie mid-shoot.
And then finding out about it from a reporter.
Right, and uncovering that amazing story about Christina Ricci influencing the ending and the mind-blowing success of that pinball machine. So many weird, wonderful details.
And for you, the listener, hopefully this deep dive really shows that even films that seem so fun and effortless on the surface can be the result of just immense struggle. Creative compromises, financial nightmares, unexpected twists off-screen.
It really underscores that knowing the how and why behind these things we love, it just enriches how we see them, doesn't it? You appreciate the final product even more when you know the crazy journey it took.
Absolutely. You see the dedication, the happy accidents, the sheer willpower involved.
So thinking about the Addams family's enduring appeal, why it still clicks with people today, what does all this backstory tell us?
Well, given all those challenges, the creative battles, the money woes, the legal fights, maybe the fact that it not only survived but thrived says something profound about the strength of Charles Addams' original creation.
Like the characters themselves are just that inherently resilient, that compelling.
Perhaps. Maybe their bizarre, unshakable family unit on screen is kind of a metaphor for the bizarre, chaotic, but ultimately successful journey the film itself took to get made. The resilience mirrored, you know.
That's a great thought. The on-screen weirdness reflecting the off-screen weirdness. Something to definitely mull over next time you watch this spooky, kooky, and, as we've learned, surprisingly tough little classic.